Hello, welcome to episode 137 of Tom's Hardware, the podcast, and it is July the 11th. We're getting through this month really quickly, that's scary. I'm your host, Associate Editor, Les Pounder, and with me as always is our Raspberry Pi expert, Ash Hill. And this is the second week of the new format. It went well last week. I said it'd take about 15 minutes for the show. It took 45 minutes, so thanks for staying with us.
We're good at what we do.
We are. So, I still haven't got those fancy intros between all the sections sorted out. I'm going to have to get that done one day. We have stings or something they're called in the television world. I've got no idea. But it comes on to news and plays all fancy stuff.
And then we have to make it Pi powered.
Yes, that's it. So imagine everyone that it exists. And we'll go on to the first bit of news. So let's go into my super duper segment section and click on the right tab. So, SB Components announced Micro RP2040. So this is a tiny little board. Now I'm going to scroll down. You should be able to see this. Yeah, you can. There we go. So there's the actual board itself, blown up to a big size. How big is that roughly? Well, it's about, in fact, it's not about, it's pretty much 24.91 by 24.83 millimeters. So roughly an inch square. That is tiny, but you get a lot of GPIO pins for this. It's retailing for about $5, about £4.50 in the UK, so roughly $5. You get a lot of GPIO pins. You can see you've got GPIO 0 up to 6 on the left side. On the bottom, we've got 10 to 15, and then 18 to 28. We've got SPI, I2C, multiple channels for these as well. Got 2 channels I can see, yep. We've got some ADCs, analog digital converters, so you can have analog inputs. And for £5, $5, that's not bad. It's a nice little board. So it reminds me, and I've got this all set up now as a prop, of the RP2040 stamp. That's exactly an inch squared, that board. And that's an RP2040 in the middle of it, and all the pins, every single GPIO pin, I'll hasten to add, is broken out around the perimeter. And then we've got, where is it now? This one. So this is what I assume is roughly the size and orientation bit. That's Qt Pi 2040, RP2040 from Adafruit. You can see it's a very similar form factor. USB-C on one end, pins on the other end. Let's get it in shot. 137 shows, should know it by now. So I think it's roughly that form factor it's going to be. I'm trying to get hold of one for review, but for some reason it wouldn't accept my card on the website. So that was a fun bit of messing around to get it working.
We have somebody in the comments who said they've already purchased 2 and they came in.
Nice. You're ahead of the game. But I do like the look of it. I mean, it's more the size that gets me. Yes, you don't get all the GPIO pins, but really, is there anyone in the comment section now going to say to me they've used every single pin in the project?
Right.
I never have.
Unless they're trying to build a keyboard.
They're building a keyboard. That's interesting. Need to talk about that.
I've seen some Pico keyboards. We've covered a few.
Excellent. Oh, yeah. I see Wayne's comment, yeah.
But, I like in this new board that they've put together, I like how they use the surface area to put the pins all the way around the edges, because on the Pico, it's kind of like a ladder. They're just going down the sides. But the new board, it's got them all the way around. I don't know. It might be convenient or it might be annoying depending on what you're trying to put together.
Well, the way I see it is, if I just go back to that layout there, this isn't really a board for breadboarding. If you look at the layout of the pins, you've got like a U section of pins. So a left section, right section, a base section. You couldn't put that in a breadboard because the base section would interfere with the left and right pins like GP6 and GP18. So you'd have to have the pins pointing upwards, which is sort of counterintuitive for breadboarding. But because of the castellations, the little dimples around the GPIO pin connections, you could surface mount solder this into a project. And that is really interesting to me because just using an RP2040, you can build your own board with an RP2040. There's guides out there to do that.
Yeah.
But it is difficult if you haven't got the soldering skills. And yes, you can go to a PCB house and get them made. But if you just want to make a very short run of boards just to scratch an itch, get something like this, solder it down, and away you go. You've got just enough pins to get the job done.
Yeah.
that's what intrigued me. So yeah, so about $5. Interesting little board.
So that's a very similar price point to the Pico, which is 4, and then I think the Pico W goes up in price. I mean, I don't have it in front of me. Like what? I know it's got USB-C. We've got the GPIO. What else does it have that maybe the Pico doesn't have, or why would you want that other than the form factor over the Pico?
It's a form factor. This one, you're making sacrifices with this board. You've got no Wi-Fi. You've got a bit more RAM. I think it's got, is it 4 meg of RAM? Okay. Not RAM, sorry, storage, sorry. 2 meg, sorry. So it's just a standard Pico. So yeah, you're sacrificing GPIO pins. You haven't got Wi-Fi, but it's just there to get a project going. A small project of your own design, really. But for the money,
it looks so cute.
Yeah, definitely. It does look cute. But yeah, I'm going to try and get one. Wayne's beating me to it, so Wayne can tell me all about it.
Come on, Wayne. Send us a board.
Yeah.
No.
I'll get one. I'll contact them. I was just eager to get one the other day, and it just, for some reason, just said my card wasn't accepted. Very strange. But anyway, if you want to read all about that new board, I'm going to stick a link into the chat now, and it's also in the comments, not the comment section, the bit down below. You can tell I'm a YouTuber, can't you? There you go. There's a link to the story. You can have a good read of that. So what's next on our list? Well, it may not have escaped your notice, but it's a very special time of the year right now. It's one of those 2 times a year, maybe 3 times a year, where Amazon has lots of sales on. It's Amazon Prime Day.
It feels like a holiday, but it's not a holiday.
It's a very busy time for all of us in the team. We're working away, finding deals for you all. And we've got a couple we're going to share right now with you. You can have a good shufty. So I'm going to let Ash handle this one first of all. So Ash, tell us all about your deal.
So we have tons of really cool Raspberry Pi deals, and the one that I like the most, I'm biased about because I bought an older edition of this before. They have a new RetroFlag G-Pi that's made for the CM4. I bought one for the Pi Zero years ago, one of these, and it looks like a Game Boy, but with a few extra buttons, but you put a Pi in it. It's got an LCD screen on it, and it's really cool, and it's really cheap today. Let me switch my camera over to show you what it looks like over on Amazon. Right here, you can see it's G-Pi Case 2. It's got 4 buttons instead of your standard A and B, which you'd find on the original Game Boy. You've also got a few extra buttons on top of the start and select, but it goes for around $80. And today it's marked down to $39, and there's a coupon. If you click, you get an extra 15% off. And it wants me to log in right now, but use the coupon before you add it to your cart if you want to take it home, because why would you not want a little extra savings if you could? But this is just really cool. I like retro gaming, and it can do so much more than Game Boy games because it's got the CM4 inside, and that's why you would want those extra buttons. So
that's very cool. Has that one got the buttons on the back as well?
I think it does, or at least mine used to. Let me hold on, pull this thing back up.
Because I've got the 2W version, which has a Raspberry Pi Zero 2W inside it. In a little.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, these right here on the back, that has like right and left buttons. It's above where the battery case would be, which it's kind of weird, but it feels right whenever you're holding it in your hands. That is where your index fingers are going to rest on the back of the case. Yeah,
it takes me back to being a teenager with a Game Boy and having the fingers on the back of the case to hold it in place. But now they've actually got a purpose. Admittedly, I'm not very good at it anymore. I haven't got the reflexes. I'm an old man now. But playing Street Fighter 2 and the heavy punch and heavy kick with left and right shoulder buttons on the SNES pad, remember rightly. And yeah, I can just about pull off moves now. But it's just nice to see something like this, which has a LiPo battery inside it as well.
I like the little details because it has a headphones jack on the bottom, just like the Game Boy, but they added a USB-C so that you can charge the Pi inside. You've got your volume over here on the scroll wheel on the right side, but there's also a scroll wheel over here on the left. That was used for contrast on the original Game Boy. It's probably brightness or something like that. It's been a while since I've tinkered with it.
Yeah, now, on the 2W version, the power is here, and it's a DC jack that goes in. It's not USB-C, so that's unusual. I'd have thought they would have kept. Upgrade. Yeah, I'd have thought they would kept the same power system. So just just swap the pi out, and for a CM4 to a 2W, have the same board inside, but they mustn't do. That's interesting.
It's
But
neat though, and it's I think it's worth checking out if you like Game Boys and you like retro gaming and you want something that's like put together all in one, ready to go. That's a ready to go system.
Yeah,
Popping your pi in half on. Oh yeah, the NES Pi.
Yeah, the SNES ones. That's lovely as well. But anyway, we digress. So I'll put a link in the comments. You can have a look at all the Raspberry Pi deals we've got for Prime Day right now. They're being updated all the time. It's usually Ash or myself doing the updating on this, finding all the deals. So have a look, save yourself some money. So I've got something a bit different. And this is a Pi show, yes. But I'm going to talk about 3D printers. So 3D printing, it's a maker thing, isn't it? We're all makers. Yeah. We're all watching this. We all like making stuff. Whether we make stuff from cardboard as a child, which what I did, or to using laser cutters now, or using laser sintering with metals for 3D printing. But we all start somewhere and learning new skills. And for me, it was learning to 3D print with a really cheap 3D printer. So I'm just going to my screen so you can see it. So this is a UK site. I'm in the UK, and for some reason today it's just throwing UK links at me. Normally it's a US deal I'll get. But this is a Creality Ender 2 Pro. Now, seasoned 3D printer people will be looking at me going, a cantilever printer, which is really simple. You don't want that. But hear me out for a second. I learned to 3D print with this printer about a year ago. And I learned a hell of a lot by tinkering with this printer. It's not the best printer in the world. It's not going to produce, flawless graphics. But not graphics, sorry, for objects.
Right.
But it's going to teach you the basics of 3D printing. So you learn what an extruder is. So the extruder, mine now is horribly cannibalized into different things. It's been changed so many times. You learn what an extruder is, what a hot end is, how to calibrate the different aspects of the bed, the X, Y, and Z axes as well. Temperatures, different nozzles. So now mine has an all-metal extruder because the one that comes with it is a plastic extruder. And over time, it does take a while, but over time it will start eating into the plastic as the filament goes through the tube. I've got a 0.8 nozzle on there, so it's double the normal size nozzle, so I can print stuff really quickly. I've got a spindle holder on top, a spool holder on top, so I can have a smaller printer on the desk. I've also done a bit of hacking with G-code with this and done my own custom G-code where it goes to the different points of the bed for bed leveling. That was inspired by Chuck Hellebuck, who's a YouTuber. And fantastic content he produces, really good. And he's got a little sensor that can go through the different points on the bed. It uses G-code, and this little sensor goes underneath. And when the hot end touches this little sensor, it lights up so you know it's level. It takes all the guesswork out of the bit of paper you got up under there, because this is a manual printer. You have to level it by hand. I've got an Elegoo Neptune 3 as well, which is completely automated. If I need something doing quick and doing right, chuck it on there. If I want some time to tinker and play around, I'll get the Ender 2 out and play around with that because I'm learning new skills. And right now, this is $154, I do believe, on Amazon.com. This printer. So it's a good bit of money, but it's nowhere near as expensive as like a $230 to $250 printer. It's also very small. It's a tiny little printer. This has been on our best 3D printer page now for over a year. That's where I picked it up from. I spent my own money to buy this based on our own review. I think it was Denise Batacci did the review of this.
Yeah.
Great little printer.
Does it use the Marlin? Does it use Marlin firmware?
It does, yeah.
Good. Because when you're trying to learn 3D printing, understanding the different types of firmware that's out there, what you can do with it, if it's open source, that's going to help a lot. Like you mentioned, making your own G-code. That's good to know. That's it.
Yeah, it even inspired me to do my own G-code guide about 6 months ago, maybe start of the year.
Cool.
Where I explained how to write your own G-code in a text file.
And if you're getting into 3D printing, I've got to recommend a product. And if you don't have one yet, Les, you should get one of these. One of the best accessories I ever got for 3D printing with FDM printers is a filament dryer. And I know you mentioned that you had a spool on top that saves you space. This is going to add some extra space. Sorry, but you put your filament in the dryer and it dries it while you're printing, and it eliminates so many problems that you're going to get from having any like moisture and stuff while you're printing and bubbles and things. You've got you one. It makes a difference, doesn't it? It does. 10 out of 10. I highly recommend getting one of those.
I had some PET G filament, which was just a little bit stringy. It just wasn't printing as it used to. So I chucked it in there for a few hours and then printed. Absolutely fine.
Beautiful.
I think that cost me about $40. It's a Sunlu one.
It's worth it, though.
Yeah, definitely worth it. So we've got loads of 3D printer deals on the site. I put a link in the comment section so you can have a look at that for yourselves. Again, we're updating the deals all the time. Between now and the end of tomorrow it'll be. In fact, early hours of the day after as well. So keep checking, have a look around. We're also doing CPUs, RAM. Basically, if it fits in a PC, we're probably looking for a deal for you. So have a look.
Thermal paste, mouses. Mice. I just said mouses.
I think UK, I'm going completely off topic. It's not in the running order. In the UK education sector, the plural of computer mouse is mouses.
Oh, well, then I meant to say that.
Yeah. Because I was always taught as a kid it was mice, but it's mouses. If anyone wants to say that I'm wrong, put it in the comments for this comment, not just wrong in general, okay? Right. Where are we up to now? Well, we're up to the review section. I should have a fancy segment bit for this now, but I don't, not just yet. But the review section is all about 2 new Arduino Uno boards that have just come out. So if I switch over to that, and just put myself in solo mode so you can see this. 2 new Arduino Unos. So Uno R4. So these are 4th revision of the original Uno layout. I started with an R2 back in the dawn of time, whenever that was. The form factor's not changed, but the hardware inside has changed a lot. So these new boards now, they're ARM powered. So I'll go down to the specifications bits we can see. We've got a ARM Cortex M4 running at 48 megahertz as the main microcontroller, 32 kilobytes of RAM, and 256K of storage. But one of these boards has something the other doesn't. The Wi-Fi board, the Uno R4 Wi-Fi, has a built-in ESP32, which is strangely running faster than the native ARM Cortex M4 of the Arduino. It's running at 240 megahertz. Now, as we all know, ESP32s, I'll just reach over to my handy props and hopefully I've got the shots lined up so you can see me in the corner here. There's some ESP32s I bought from AliExpress recently. Great little microcontrollers on their own. Great things. But mix it up with an Arduino form factor and we've got something a bit more interesting here. So the ESP32 is literally just there for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And interestingly, you can't have both at the same time according to the spec sheets. I'm sure someone's going to hack that to change it one day. The Wi-Fi board has also got a STEMMA QT, quick connection, maker port. It's got multiple names, Quest connection, that's what Pimoroni call them. Just really a 4-pin I2C connection, proprietary connection that you can plug in different sensors to, and away you go. So I was using that with, I'll just go to the shot. That little thing there, a little black board, is an MPR121, which is a capacitive touch sensor. I was using that with a maker drive to control a motor. So when I touch one of those inputs, the motor comes to life. So great little board. I had some problems though. And the problem being, the Arduino has always had one I2C channel. But for this new board, it's got 2. But all the software that uses I2C, which I think is called wire in Arduino parlance, just references that one connection. So I had to hack the source files for that to say there's now something called wire 1 to tell it to look on the STEMMA QT port for these sensors. And it took me a good hour and a half to work that out. Even after reading the documentation, I still couldn't work out where things were. So the software is just playing catch up at the minute. It's great piece of hardware, but software just needs a little bit more time to catch up to where it needs to be so that it becomes seamless. Because as I say, the hardware is bulletproof. It just works. It's great stuff. saying that about software, you can use the Arduino 1.8, 2.1, and the Arduino Connect, the IoT Cloud, sorry, that's what it's called, to write your code, and it just works in that respect. Or third-party libraries, just playing catch-up. So I mentioned there's two boards, and I focus mainly on the first one, which is the Wi-Fi board. But the second one is Minima. Now, I may have said that wrong, but apologies. They both got the same layout, both got the same connections, but the Minima has no Wi-Fi, and it's missing that STEMMA QT connection, that quick connection, which isn't a deal breaker. But when you consider the difference in price, the Minima is $20, and the Wi-Fi board is $27. So if I was working in a class with kids and we didn't need Wi-Fi, 20 quid for the Minima, no problem. So $20, I should say. If it's just me messing around at home or with a group of makers, we'd probably go for the Wi-Fi board, because $7 in the grand scheme of things isn't that much money for the extra features that it provides.
Right.
But yeah, solid hardware. Software's playing catch up, but when it does, it'll be great. But another thing you can do with this board, and I can't get you a photograph of it or video, so it's really hard. So it's Charlie plexing LEDs. You see on the screen right now, you've got a 12x8 grid of LEDs. Those are red LEDs similar to the microbits LED matrix, which was a 5x5 grid. These LEDs are all individually controllable. So you can write code, and it's even got a really simple how-to on this on the Arduino site, to create frames. And you can set timings between the frames to create animations. Now, someone's done Space Invaders on this already, made a game out of it, which is awesome.
That is really cool.
I love that. I managed to make shapes appear on the screen at random, which I was very happy about. And the demo you get with it is Tetris. It plays Tetris just down the screen, dropping the bricks.
That's really neat.
Absolutely great. But yeah, it's just come out, so you can pick it up from the Arduino website. As I say, Minima is $20 and the Wi-Fi is $27. And if you want to read about what I was doing with the board, what projects I got up to, what problems I faced, I'm going to stick the link in the comments right now. You can have a look at it. Have a look for yourself. Judge it for yourself. Is it worth your money? Go for it. Right, so on to the next bit now. I really should have a jingle between sections, shouldn't I?
I know, anyway. I'm resisting the urge to be cheesy and sing something.
We should just get a guitar and just do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, coming soon bit now. So, this landed on my desk Monday, or was it Friday? It landed on my desk a day I can't remember. This is Robo Pico from Cytron. Now, Cytron, I've been making Pico stuff for a long time now, since Pico came out. And it's always worked around getting kids or getting young adults or getting learners making stuff with boards. And Robo Pico is no different. It's a $12 board for the basic board, no Pico. It's got two DC motor terminals. They're MX1515H for everyone playing at home. And I'll show you what that's based on. Those motor controllers are based on the maker drive, which is here, which my hand's in the way. There we go. Which I was using with the Arduino before to do the motor controller. Absolutely fantastic for kids or classroom environment, this little board. Plug in the motors, plug in the connections from your Arduino, your Pico, your Pi, whatever board. It's the same chip, MX1515H, motor controller, and you've even got test buttons. So if your code doesn't work, but the motors are connected correctly, how do you know? Well, you've got test buttons on here to test the motors. It'll send power to the motors, and away they go. Well, you got it on here as well, with Robo Pico. Awesome bit of kit. So I'll just scroll down a bit so you can see what I'm talking about. That's always handy. There we go. Lovely little board. Your Pico just plops straight on the top of it, with some GPIO pins broken out as well, so you can have access to every single pin. You've got Grove connections, which are like big I2C connections or data connections. We've got power connections in the top left, so you can put a LiPo battery in here and also charge it at the same time. You can have voltage in with that green screw terminal. You've got 4 terminals for servos, so 4 servos can be controlled at once. You've got RGB LEDs, neopixels, because it has to have neopixels. That is a law.
Yes.
It does. And it has an annoying buzzer, which is always great in a classroom environment.
Oh
But you
boy.
can turn it off. But again, Cytron, this is a great product. 12 quid, $12. And you get everything that you need for kids to get building quickly. So they can build a robot with this in no time. And the
Right.
Grove components are pretty cheap these days as well. So just get some Grove components, plug them in, get some motors, get some cardboard, some glue, some sticky back plastic, and away you go. You can start building some cool projects.
I could see that being really handy in a robotics class. I used to go to a technical school, and the equipment they used, it was way before we had Arduinos and stuff to play with. This is like 2006, 2007. They
Yeah.
would have loved to have their hands on something like this.
Oh yeah. It's awesome what you can do now. I mean, with a Pico W for $8, with this for $12, so $20 in total, you can have a web controlled robot pretty simply. That would be cool.
Neat.
That would be very cool. So I'll chuck a link into the comments now so you can read all about it. I've not done the review yet, but if anyone's enthused and wants to buy one right now, you can. The review's going to be coming soon, probably a week or two for this one because it's a busy period right now.
Are you just going to tinker with it, or do you have a project in mind?
I'll probably tinker for a little bit and then build something with it. I normally tinker in my own time and then build a project during work time for that one. I'm thinking a robot because I've got some Lego lying around and some Lego compatible motors, which should work.
Neat.
Yeah. So now I'll just get myself back on the screen. There we go. And this is where I have too many windows open. Hello again. I'm going to hand it over to Ash now to talk about some Pi projects of the week.
Yes, give me this show. There are two really cool projects that I wanted to share with you guys. And this first one, I hope you guys can maybe try to recreate at home because it would make your summer so much more relaxing and easygoing if you didn't have to worry about doing all those chores outside in the hot summer sun. I'm pointing at a window. If your window's not over there, just pretend. But let me adjust my camera here. Behold, this Raspberry Pi will mow your lawn for you. It has a web interface so you can tell it which way to go. It uses the power of AI and image recognition to determine what is grass, what is not grass, and it just mows your yard for you. That's amazing. That's about all I had to say about it. You can read all about it over on their website. There's a lot of details about the software that they're using to build it. It's still a work in progress, but it's so cool. It's just so self-explanatory too.
It's awesome. It's just the whole UI, the interface it's got on the demo is amazing. It's got a compass to determine which direction it's facing. I mean, has it got GPS as well? Can it work out where it is in the garden? And
it would be easy to add that if it doesn't. Because they made a board, or a hat, I should say, for the Pi. The fellow who's testing the software that they're working on, he's using a Pi 4, but apparently it should work with other boards. But they made a little hat for it so that it would be easier to attach all the different sensors. I think it's using time of flight. Is that the right term? I have to double check.
Time of flight sensors.
Yeah, it's using time of flight sensors for like left and right sweeps, and then it's got a camera that it's using for image recognition, and it can determine whether or not the grass has been mowed, if it's too long, all of that. So that's pretty awesome. But let's say you want life to be easier and more comfortable, but you don't live in the Northern Hemisphere. I also wanted to share this hilarious project. They're using a Raspberry Pi Pico to heat their butt. It's got a bunch of resistors laid out in the matrix, and it's a Pico W. So it can connect to the internet and determine what the weather is outside. So if it's really cold that particular day, it's just going to automatically start heating your seat. So you don't even have to hit a button. It just automatically warms your butt for you.
Basically, that's just won the internet. We're done now. We can all just retire. We have
seriously
IoT butt warmers. That's fantastic.
What else are you going to use a Pico for if you can't automate your life and make it more comfortable in the extreme heat or extreme cold?
It's a wonderful idea. I mean, you're using the resistance of the resistors to generate heat. Is it a 5 ohm resistor or something like that? Yeah.
It is. If you decide to recreate this, be careful. I mean, there's always danger whenever you're using something like this really close to fabric. Things are flammable. Don't leave it running if you're not around. And, don't burn your butt. There's our disclaimer.
It's amazing what you can do really with some simple electronics. I'm going to put a link in the chat so you can all have a look at that for yourselves. It's pure madness, but I like it. I was telling Ash when she was writing this story, there's a very old Raspberry Pi project from when the Pi first came out in 2012, where the project was to blow up a balloon, put a resistor on the balloon with sellotape or sticky back plastic, connect it up to the GPIO of your Pi, and then just send voltage through that Pi, through those pins. Resistor gets warm, heats up the balloon, pop. It was awesome. They were teaching kids to do that.
It shows them also like just the real world. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like the applications of like the hardware you're using, like resistors, using it to generate heat. I mean, yeah. I know it's cool.
Well, it is. You're teaching a basic electronics concept here that resistors generate heat. So you have to make sure you have the right wattage of resistor as well as the right resistance. Ask me how I know. I had to buy some 1 watt resistors for a project for an LED sign. In fact, it's a sign over here that's just out of frame. A neon banana. It's an LED neon, so it's fake neon. And I was using 1/4 watt resistors with that, and they got really hot. So I thought, I may need a 1 watt resistor for this one then. So off to Amazon, and it wasn't Prime either. I had to pay full price for it. But anyway, so we're at the end of the show now. But before we go, we've got something special to share. Now, normally we don't say who's coming on the show until a few days after this show, but we wanted to make it a bit more special this time. We mentioned Arduino already, the new Arduinos, so we thought, who better to talk about Arduinos next week than Mr. Arduino? So yes, next week we've got Massimo Banzi on the show, Mr. Arduino, to talk about the new Arduinos. A full show just talking about Arduinos and what you can do with these new boards. We'll also talk about Raspberry Pi Pico as well, and Arduino's own RP2040 Connect. But it's going to be on the show, so because you're watching it now, you get to know this before anyone else. I haven't announced it anywhere. So if you join us next week at the same time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. BST, British Summer Time in the UK, same day, Tuesday, the 18th of July, you can ask questions to Massimo directly. And you can find out all about the new boards.
So exciting.
It's going to be cool.
Yeah.
I'm
Don't
excited.
Tell Eben.
That's it. Eben may get jealous.
Yeah.
You may not. Hi, Eben, if you're watching.
Right, technically, Arduino is a customer of Raspberry Pi. They're using the RP2040s for their board. So it's good. It's like a good friendly crossover. It's
all friendly. It's all good. As long as you get tech in the hands of makers, we don't care.
Maker's going to make.
That's it. So that's it for this week. We're going to be back at the same time next week, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. British Summer Time, with Massimo. So join us then. And thanks for watching. See you later.
Bye, guys.